Hi, sixth graders. We are starting chapter 7. So flip to your next open page in your notebook and label the top lesson 7-1, percent of a number. This lesson starts on page 344 in your textbook, in case if you wanted to go there and look at the information in there. And you might at the very top want to label the page with chapter 7 and kind of circle it so you know that this is the beginning of chapter 7 in your notebook. The learning target is being able to find the percent of a number. So just with our previous knowledge, we already know that 50% of 100, which is 50% is half, so we know that half of 100 is 50. We know that 50% of 50, because 50% again is half, is 25. And we know that 25% of 100 is also 25. Because any percent out of 100 would be that number, since percents are out of 100. And we can check, well, we know that 50% is the same as 1/2. So if we do 1/2 times 100, we get 50. We also know that 1/2 is the same as 5/10 or 0.5. So if we do 0.5 times 50, we get 25. And we can do the multiplication and we can use our calculator to check. We know that 25%, if we convert that to a decimal, remember we take the decimal, which starts after the 5, and go over to the left 2. And if we change that to 0.25, and we multiply that times 100, if you do that in your calculator to check, you would get 25. So if you noticed, really all we're doing is we are converting it to a decimal, okay, and then multiplying it by that number. We can use mental math to help us solve. So 52% of 80, we know that it has to be, 52% is close to 50. So we know that 52% of 80 is approximately 40. It's going to be around 40. 98%, which is close to 100, 100% of 50 then is going to be approximately 50. We know it's going to be a tad less, but about 50. So to find the percent of a number, write this in your notebook, right here, this whole box. To find the percent of a number, we convert the percent to a decimal, or we convert it to a fraction, just like we did in 2 slides above, and then we multiply. So if we have this problem, out of 50 students surveyed about their favorite kind of ice cream, 20% of students chose cookies and cream. How many students like cookies and cream? Well, basically what we're doing, we want to find out what is 20% of 50. 50 people were surveyed. We want to find out what 20% of 50 is. So back to our slide, convert the percent to a decimal or to a fraction and then multiply. So we're going to do it both ways. We're going to first convert this to a decimal. So we can move our decimal over to the left 2, so we have 0.20 times 50, and we are going to either multiply that on paper or we can put that directly into our calculator just like that. You have to make sure that you have the decimal points in the correct spot. So 0.20 times 50 equals 10. So 10 students said that they like cookies and cream. Okay, we can also, because I want to show you both ways, we can also convert 20% to a fraction. So if we think way back, we know that 20% is the same as 20 over 100. And then we simplify that. We can divide both by, what would be our least common denominator? We can divide, I know I can divide them both by 5. So 20 divided by 5 is 4. 100 divided by 5 would be 20. And then I know that I can divide them both again. 4 divided by 2 is 2. We can divide, okay, let's do 4 divided by 2. 20 divided by 2 is 10. And then we have 1/5. So 20%, which you should know, equals 1/5. So now what we do is we take 1/5 and we multiply it times 50. Remember, when we're multiplying fractions by whole numbers, we want to get a 1 in our denominator. So 1 times 50, and then 5 times 1. So 50 divided by 5 would be 10. So you get the same answer, whether you do it whether you convert to a decimal or to a fraction, you still would get 10 students. Okay, what is 55% of $400? So the word of, we need to remember, means to multiply. So 55% of 100 is basically 55% times 400. So we can convert it to a decimal. You can, if you prefer the fraction, then you can change it to a fraction. Otherwise, we have 0.55 times 400. So 0.55 times 400 equals 220. 5% of 1,500 is what number? So again, we're basically finding what is 5% of 1,500. So we're going to change this to a decimal. We have to move it over 2. We have to remember to add that 0. So 5% is the same as 5 hundredths, 0.05 times 1,500. So 0.05 times 1,500 equals 75. Now going back to that slide where we mentally, this slide, when we figured out, we just kind of did this in our head and we knew that 52% was close to 50, so our percent has to be, or our answer has to be close to 50%. So we have to be able to recognize about where our answer should be. So we need to know, well, 55% of 400 is close to 50%, and we know that 50% of 400 is 200, so then this makes sense that 55% would be a little bit more than 200, which is 220. 5% is a really, really small percentage, so it makes sense that our number is going to be a lot smaller than our number that we're given. Okay, find 190% of 20. I want you to pause me really fast and try this problem on your own and then come back and check. So 190% converted to a decimal is 1.90 or 1.9. Okay, just because so the decimal doesn't always go to the left of the first number. We just go over to the left 2. 190% is over 100. Remember, 100% of 20 would be 20, or 100% of a number is that number. So if it's greater than 100%, it's going to be greater than the number. So then that makes sense that we're multiplying by a number greater than 1. So 1.9 times 20 equals 38. And then our last problem, what is 3/4% of 40? So first, I'm going to change 3/4 into a decimal, which I know is 0.75, but 3/4 is 0.75, so it's still 0.75% of 40. Now we need to convert it to a decimal. So because there's already a decimal does not mean that it's already in decimal form. Now we need to go over to, I add my 0 here, so it's going to be 0.0075 times 40. So this is going to be a really, really small number because 3/4% is actually smaller than 1/4%. So 0.0075 times 40 equals 0.3, which makes sense, and that's a reasonable answer. All right, make sure you log into NICU and take the 7-1 NICU quiz. You can go back and rewatch this video if needed. If you want to get some more information, you can always look in your textbook, remember. And also remember that you need to bring your math book and textbook to class every single day so that you have your notes and your textbook in order to do the problems so you're ready to go. Have a super evening, and I will see you tomorrow.